What's going on YouTube? Welcome to Learning to Draw and Paint with Upari, a supplemental video series for viewers and students that will be taking in-person classes with me. So, this is now going to be the final 3 classes of this semester, or trimester, however you want to look at it. So, we are now going to get into something called independent study. So, for the first 6 classes, you drew and painted along with me in person. And now for the final 3, this will be an independent, so you'll be able to select your own image. I'm going to have a series of potential references for you to use, but you get to choose what you would like to paint. I will be drawing and painting along with you. Well, I'll be painting, but you have the option to draw or paint. It just so happens that today's lesson here is going to be using charcoal, so I will be drawing here. So remember, the only difference between drawing and painting is that painting is drawing with oil color or whatever color that you're using, whether it's acrylics or whatever. But anyway, let's get into the subject now. So the syllabus you'll see in the description box of the video. By the way, those of you that are not taking in-person classes with me or are too far away, this is still going to help you out because this is a free supplemental video covering very important concepts in the development of representational art. So first we will do an introduction. What is independent study? I pretty much just told you what it is. You're going to be drawing and painting along with me. I will be working on my own image, but you can use the same image that I'm using. That's basically what independent study is. So we're going to call this an apprentice style painting / drawing session. You will be drawing with me in the same studio. We will be creating artwork together now. You will use everything that you've learned in the past 6 sessions, and you will continue to work on this for the following 2 weeks after this week. And then at the end, we will have our little class group critique, as we always do, where we look at everyone's drawings and paintings and study them. And so let's go ahead and get started with the concept that I'm going to be talking about. And this is going to be composition and design. Composition and design is absolutely essential. So when I'm looking at a picture, any painting, I actually have an evolving composition. So whenever I start something, I start with an idea, which is what you're going to see here, and then I evolve. I start to add more information to the idea. You cannot actually teach design. You cannot actually teach creativity, but what you can teach, what I can show you, are the methods that you're going to be able to use to study it. So let's get into that now. So I have a charcoal, a willow. This is willow charcoal that I'm using, and I'm going about this composition with abstract shapes. And the reason abstract paintings work in like IKEA or wherever you see or purchase abstract prints or artwork is because of the nature of the abstraction. So every composition is going to have a main diagonal to it. A main diagonal should be part of every composition that you do. And right now what I'm doing is I'm blocking in the figure, the top of the figure's head right over here. And you see the reference that I'm going to work from. Like I said, you can work from the same reference if you want to. If you want to work from a different reference, you can do so. So the idea here for me is to get an idea of where the head is going to be placed relative to the entire canvas. Now, this is a drawing, and I can evolve from this drawing into my canvas. So I can stretch my canvas based on what size and dimension I have for this drawing. The drawing does not have to be incredibly accurate in terms of the proportion, the likeness, or anything like that, but it should be relatively close enough so that you have an idea of what you're going to do with the picture. So shapes come into play first. Where is this line relative to the head? How does it crop and how does it frame the head? So pretty much like a thumbnail sketch. Now in the class description, you actually had newsprint, and a couple people were asking about the newsprint. This is what you can use the newsprint for. We're not really gonna do that exercise in class just because our time is so short together. We've only got 2 hours and a half, which is just perfect for what we're doing, but it's not enough time to really go into these little sketches. I'd rather you do these at home so you have more to work from. So now that I have the figure placed in this section over here, I have this picture frame back here, and there's maybe like the back end of a canvas. I'm actually doing a similar painting to this, and you'll see a video of it most likely, pre-recorded video of it soon. Anyway, there's a table over here. It's very similar, just a different dress. And the chair she's sitting on is over here. Now here's where I really have to pick my composition. So there's some little tassels back here. I don't know if I want to put them in there, but we'll see. Probably won't. And there's a mirror that she's holding onto, and it has a position relative to her head. And I can just use like a simple triangle for that. But you have to think spatially now. You have to feel out the shapes. And don't get into value just yet. Just get an idea of the basic abstract shapes. This right here. This is the gold right here. This is going to be what will allow you to think in the most fundamental sense in the process of creating your own original works of art. Sorry, because you feel out a composition. It is natural to you. Art is inherently part of all of us. All of us, just like we have our own handwriting, we all have our own individual voice in the art making process. So you do not have to go and chase different kinds of, like stylizations and things like that. And I totally forgot to clean this brush. But you do not have to go and chase stylization or something like that. Your style will come to you. So I see that this is a little bit more narrow, so I'm going to actually crop this here. So this tells me when I stretch my canvas, I want to go with a longer canvas, maybe like a 24 by 36, something like that. And this is probably all the way down here. This is how it'll be cropped, something like that. And that's pretty good. I have the head a little bit taller up there, but that works pretty much fine. So now that we have the shape somewhat figured out for our design, now we can get into values. So there's a big dark shape over here and over here on the reference, and I like the chiaroscuro. The chiaroscuro makes sense to me to use in a painting like this, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. Leaving a little bit of a light there where that canvas is, the reflection of the canvas. Now when you select your reference that you want to work from, bear in mind that you're most likely going to have a smaller canvas, a 1620, on the first day. So you can opt to do a study like this on your canvas, and I'll explain it in class. You can do that if you want to, and then return with the larger one. But you can work with a 1620 or something like that for the duration of the project. That's totally fine. And just kind of a glimpse of where the face is going to fit. I don't need any detail really for the face, just enough to get an idea where it is. And to many of you, many on the internet are not going to be happy with this video because it's not going to be a very finished looking drawing, but it's going to have the fundamentals that you need. to plan out a composition. It is absolutely essential that you enjoy the process. If you enjoy the subject matter that you are working from, you will do better. One of my teachers would always say that she could tell when someone enjoyed what they were doing, whether they were drawing or painting. You can kind of tell when somebody really enjoys it, and you can tell when they don't. And when they don't enjoy it, that's usually not their best work, when they don't enjoy it. So if you don't want to do portrait, you don't have to do portrait. We've done landscape, we've done still life, we've done some form studies now from imagination. There's kind of a glimpse of a face here. Doesn't have to be very realistic, just a little sketch. Likeness doesn't matter. Don't get hung up on the likeness or any little specific details. The hair comes down here. Now there's some light on her shoulder and her hand that's in her hair. So she's looking at a mirror. It's a very active pose. So there's one hand there, neck, shoulder. And I toned this piece of paper ahead of time with charcoal, the same willow charcoal that I was drawing with. And the other hand is just below, put that shadow shape there. The dark triangle here. This value is darker than the background, so that's an important part of the design to consider. A little bit of the shoulder showing in the back there. Doesn't quite matter though. The shadow here for where the knees are on the drapery. Table over there. Now in this abstract sense, if this works, I will use this composition. And now I can decide whether I want the tassels or not. So now that I'm getting into values, it really helps me get an idea for what I want this painting to look like when it's finished. Series of shapes. And now she's sitting on a chair, and part of the chair is actually showing through. Don't know really if I want to show it, but there is a picture frame here. So it's going to take some attention. So it needs to have some kind of value to it. That's the light side of the stump. So we will be making artworks together And you are totally free to select any image you want, as long as it's appropriate, of course, for a classroom. And the hair's got some value to it. I'm making way for this hand. There's the mirror, the back side of the mirror that she's looking at. Almost looks like a ping pong stick, so that might have to get edited a little bit. There's the dark for the chair. I don't know if I want that there, but we will put it in first. Like I said, don't worry about proportion. Proportion's not perfect here, but that's not the point of this study. This also tells me that this whole section here is too similar. This is something you want to watch out for in a composition, typically. Symmetry, you have to be careful with. So this dark here and this dark here, what it's telling me is that that is just not going to work. It's going to look like this is split down the middle dark, split down the middle dark. So what can I do? Since there is a picture frame here, it makes sense for this to, well, let's put her fingers in there first. They're very important lights to the composition. It doesn't matter, don't get caught up on the proportion. Get it close enough. Alright, so what this is telling me is that I'm going to have to use some kind of painterly trick over here. So I've already kind of figured out what I want to do. I'm going to use a gradation. So it's going to be a gradation from light to dark down here, which is not evident in the reference. Which is going to make the cloth, I'm actually going to push the cloth of the drapery lighter now than the background. It's the reverse on the reference. So you have to feel this out. Like I said, the composition is not going to be the same for everyone. Someone may have been able to capitalize on that two-tone, like this dark and then that light. I'm not telling you that that is not going to work for everyone. It's just not going to work for me. So that changes the wall a little bit. Nice little gradation as we get closer down here. And like I said, my compositions are always evolving, so I tend to add stuff in the middle of the painting. Add or subtract. Sometimes I subtract. I'll be working from my iPad, so if you have your tablet, if you have a tablet, that would be much easier for you to bring and work from rather than a printout. Alright, so now I can see, do I want to put those tassels in there? That's the next thing. The tassels that are in the composition in the picture, do they do anything for the painting? And this is, like I said, this is something that you decide for yourself. If it's something that you want in your painting or your drawing. All right, so let's put the tassels in. There's 4 of them. Compositionally speaking, I tend to avoid even numbers and things being evenly spaced. So I'm just going to do 3 of these little tassels. They don't really make sense. I think I just hung them up there just because I wanted something up there. And the shadow. And just look at the shape of things. Every time you add something to a design, look at the shape. Don't think about what it is. It could be a cobra. It could be tassels. It could be a turtle. I don't know what a turtle would be doing there, but it could be whatever, anything that comes to mind. It could really be anything. But it, in its essence, is a shape. And you want to look at the shape first before you get caught up in anything else. Okay, so standing back, I see that that is an eyesore. I don't really like it. It doesn't feel right. It has to feel right. So I'm going to take it out. Now all I have is a value. So don't even think about what is there. Put a mark. Anything. A little squiggle. Does it look like something should be there? And I don't think so. I think that I feel that compositionally speaking, you feel this out. That this needs to be quiet. This just needs to be a nice gradation. Nice little gradation. Quiet little gradation there. Gives more atmosphere to the design. And with my stump, I try to have a light and a dark side to my stump, and this is getting a little bit too dark on the light side. So I've switched sides there. All right. So standing back, I see that this could work. Here's another tip for you. And this is just personal preference. This is something I like to do. Now what you can do with your composition, if you like it, you can now measure it out. You can measure it out with a ruler. This side and this side. So to check this proportionally and to size it up or size it down is really simple. So what you can do is take the long side and take the short side and take the long side. Or if you have a square, then it's a square. That's easy to increase or to decrease. What you can do is measure it. This and this. Divide the short side by the long side. Divide it and you will get a number. So whatever this is, just divide it and you will get a number. And if you want to check if your larger canvas works for this design, do the same thing. Divide the measurement for the short side by the long side. If you get the same exact number, that means they are proportional to one another. If you get a different number, how close are they? If they're too far away, that means that, say, this is maybe, and for example, this could be, the long side could be twice as big as this. So when you divide, you get a different number. So for example, if take the long side and divide it by the short side. If this is 4 and this is 2, you're going to get 2, for example. It's very intuitive. Another thing you can do, if you hate dividing numbers, if for some reason you hate dividing numbers and you don't want to go through that struggle, just by feel. By feel. By feel, I know that this will work as a 24 by 36. I don't really have to measure it out that way. On a 1620 canvas, like the one that I recommended you get for this week's class, 1620 is a really nice uh, compositional number, whatever, because it is so versatile. 1620 really is a almost like the most universal size, so you could pretty much paint almost any composition there you want, except for like a square or a really long landscape kind of composition. But anyway, there it is. There is a value study. This is the most important fundamental element in all of composition. Is how you feel out the shapes and the values. Shapes and values. That's it. There's color also involved in these things, but color again is even more subjective than shape and value. Color you will be able to do pretty much almost anything you want. You can change a lot of stuff with color, but here this is the core. This is the essence of pretty much all of art, really, is being able to, at least visual arts, is being able to work with shape, work with value, and feel out the composition. Other things like the main diagonal here, having a main diagonal, and grouping things asymmetrically, and making sure if you have a cluster of things, make sure it's an odd number. Those are, like recipes. They don't always work, but they are something that you can use to get an idea. For example, I knew that I couldn't split that evenly, so I just was watching out for symmetry. But I'll talk more about that in class. And like I said, you can actually make things that don't work compositionally in most cases work in your own compositions. It's that subjective. So once again, this was a supplemental video for those of you that are taking in-person classes with me at the Yellow Barn studio. If you're interested in taking classes with me and you live in the Maryland, D.C., Virginia area, please see the link in the description box for information for the classes that I will be teaching. I also will be offering a Thursday night portrait painting class from a live model starting this winter. Again, check the link in the description box for the school. Scroll down to my name and you will see the link in there for the class that I will be offering. For those of you taking this class with me and you're interested in taking your artwork further beyond what we've done in the 6 weeks, like I said, this is going to be an independent study, so you have the time to work on this much longer. And if you continue to take the courses with me, if you take this class, and I'll explain it in class, if you take this class with me in the future, you will be able to continue to evolve in how you pursue the development of your artworks, especially with the independent study time. You will definitely be able to pick your own subject matter and push it as far as you want to push it. So once again, thank you all so much for watching. I wish you the very best in all of your artwork, and I'll see you on the next one.